Hello and welcome to the Evolution of Fatherhood. My name is Shane Bowen and I am here today. I'm stoked today. We've got two of my greatest friends, my mentors, and they've just got such great concepts. They're both great fathers. We've got some really amazing stories to share with you today. So I'm going to jump into my presentation and we will get started because we have a bit of a time constraint. So let's go. All right, here we go. Gotcha. Okay, so the introduction is the reason why we do this. Fathers should be supporting each other. So with the evolution of AI, what we've done is we've created this group to support fathers in the transitional stages of AI and how it has influenced the parenting experience. With this group is to support each other, transitioning. It's to collaborative learning environment. It's to share knowledge and experiences, collectively navigate and evolving landscape and ensure that the effective embrace of the benefits and the opportunities of us as the roles as parents. So hold on to your hats. We're going to go straight into it. This is Harry and Richard Flanagan, and we'll bring them on in a minute. But there is one little point that I wanted to bring up, and it's about what about if we shifted, our perception into, instead of trying to get something from someone, what about if we want to give from something? So here's a short video about giving.
People ask me all the time, Michael, what was your big break?
Our next guest has performed on Comedy Central's Premium Blend.
He made his first appearance on The Tonight Show from Montreal Comedy Festival.
You've seen him on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
That wasn't a big break. The big break was at a club. And right before I got on stage, I had a change in mindset about comedy. Normally when a comedian gets on stage, he wants to get laughs from people. And I felt a little shift take place, where I felt like I was to go up there and give them an opportunity to laugh. Now I'm not looking to take, I'm looking for an opportunity to give. This changed everything. My name is Michael Jr., I'm gonna do some jokes. And ultrasounds come in color now, which is ridiculous. I know it's a black baby. It better be a black baby. I leave the club that night, and there's all these people giving me hugs and high fives, telling me their favorite jokes. Then I look across the street, and I saw a homeless guy. And I thought to myself, what about him? Most comedy, most jokes are set up. My son, 4 years old, looks at me out of nowhere. He says, Dad, I want to be a doctor. I was like, yes, yes. And then a punchline. Then he said, or a dinosaur. I understand that me doing comedy and doing all of these TV shows and making all these people laugh is really just a setup. My punchline is to make laughter commonplace in uncommon places. We go to Montrose, Colorado, a place called the Dolphin House. They take care of children who have been abused by their parents. And this grandmother explains to me that her grandson is being abused by his mom. He's so afraid of his mom that everywhere he goes, he wears a Spider-Man costume. So I get on stage, sitting right up front, Spider-Man. I start doing comedy. People start laughing, slowly but surely. Probably about 25 minutes into it, I hear a voice, and the voice says, my name is Ronan. And this little boy pulls off his mask. And it was one of the most powerful moments in my entire comedy career. If we could just stop asking the question, what could I get for myself? And start asking the question, what can I give from myself? I think people would learn that you don't have to be a comedian to deliver a punchline. It's really what I want to get across to people. And I think I just did. I looked at the camera again. I don't know if I was supposed to do that.
Okay, so yes, we're going to go deep. We're going to go deep. Let me just turn my camera on. Okay, so my first guest today is one of my mentors. His name is, let me just set it up first. When someone sees your greatness, right? And they go set about showing you your greatness to you before you even know you've got your greatness. That's what I call leadership. Okay. And many of you already know Harry. However, many of you may be watching this for the first time, and this is your first time meeting Harry. But I want to introduce the man, the legend, Mr. Harry Charalambous. So Harry, can you unmute and come on to the call, please? Hey,
G'day, Shane. How are you?
Fantastic,
I'm
mate.
fantastic. Yeah.
Coming
I am
through
so
with
pleased to be here with you today. This is and a testament to the AI that we're managing to do this with you and Richard and I all in different places. That's fantastic. So I'm thrilled to be here. Very excited.
So just
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. So just for our viewers, I would just want to make sure Harry's not driving at the moment. He's not in Sydney traffic driving along. He's acoustically emboweled. Is that the word? Anyway, he's got into his car where he's taking the call from today. So just wanted to let you know he's not going to be stopping and starting, much like Jolty's last week, where he he was in the plane above Australia somewhere and couldn't connect. So I really appreciate you being here, Harry.
Definitely not driving. And again, another indication of our IA at work here that I'm able to do this from the car.
That's fantastic. Okay, so Harry, the evolution of fatherhood, AI in the building industry. What have you got for us today? Have you got some things about maybe you want to start with the building industry, or you want to start with the parenting? It's up to you.
Now, look, let's jump into the building industry to start with. I mean, as you know, Shane, I've been involved in the building industry for quite a long time, and in particular in the property investment and development side of the building industry. It's been an amazing journey, and if we go back to my first property purchase, which was probably before you were born, back in 1984.
What? No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first purchase back in 1984, wow. And I was thinking about it the other day, and the way that property was purchased was looking at a magazine called a Realtor magazine, and it was a couple of 100 pages long, and we would flip through that magazine and look at properties for sale. Then we would get on the phone, on the old dial-up phone, and call the agents, go and inspect these properties and purchase a property. To sign a contract, we would go into an agent's office or into the conveyancer's office to sign that contract. The way things have changed from there, those magazines no longer exist. It is all online. Everything is online. We inspect the properties. So we're based in Sydney. We will inspect properties Australia-wide, again, all online, before going to do any physical inspections. Sometimes we will do physical inspections, not always. We have purchased properties by getting the agent to do a video walk through the property with us whilst we haven't left home or haven't left the office. Once we have an offer and an acceptance on that property, those contracts are signed electronically. There is very, very little need now to do physical inspections, very little need for printed press. All this stuff is now all done, all automated, all using technology. It's amazing what we can do now. A lot of my clients are either overseas or interstate. Again, all using technology. The industry it's still growing. If I give you another example of some of the tools we use, and you have used one of the tools that I refer to, which is called RP Data, which is a great tool for getting data on previous sales. We now have another tool, which is all AI driven, and it feeds into probably 12 or 15 different portals where we get live data on anything from the property, the surrounds, any aspects of that property, such as any flood zones, bushfire zones. They all get overlaid. Again, we haven't left our desk, and we've got a tool there. if we like that property and we feel we can add value to it, there's an inbuilt feasibility program into that tool. We've run the feasibility. We haven't left the tool yet. We haven't left our desk to get all that data. It's still growing. These are tools that are coming online every day, every month. There's new technologies happening, and we have to keep up. We have to keep up with the technology as best we can. I mean, some of it we're still behind on, and we try and keep as best we can up to speed on these tools. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we could go on here for hours and start showing you these tools, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg.
I was wondering about the price of properties. It seems to be like the Australian property market has gone up and up and up and up. Like wondering if AI, you think, has had any influence on that, or is it, because if things become easier, you would think it become cheaper. But
yeah, look, I think I'm not sure about the influence it's had, but certainly what it's given us is a lot more access to real-time data on what is happening. So a property can sell this morning, and by this afternoon, we've got the sale price. So with days gone by, it would take a month for that data to be uploaded into the database, and that data wasn't given to the data entry people for 6 weeks after the sale. So we would be 2 or 3 months behind in the data. Now we're literally getting it in a matter of hours. We've got real-time data.
So it really helps with doing your due diligence, right? Doing your background research on everything. So maybe it may even decrease the price of somebody's house, knowing the background as well, right? So
absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. The tools are fantastic that we have available to us now. From an investment point of view, a building point of view, building has changed phenomenally with construction methods. The way even the materials are manufactured, the types of materials that we're using, a lot more lightweight and more cost effective, even though there's talk of material costs going up. Where the material cost goes up is the labor intensive side of the material cost, not the side that is manufactured using the AI and using the technologies that we now have available to us. That's actually bringing these things down.
Right. Yeah. Because I know my son was building a property and he had to, they cancelled the project now. So that was probably an update for you, is that he had the contract signed, everything was going ahead, but then the price of the supplies or whatever it is, they didn't even
timber and steel.
Yep, timber. They didn't even get to the sunset clause. So it was kind of just before the sunset clause, they cut the contract and said, we're giving everyone their money back. So that's pretty, but there was nothing in AI that, and if I would have had something more AI that could have. So if there was one thing that I was thinking that isn't AI at the moment, that probably should be, is in those cases where that the builder's in trouble or something's happening with a delay, and getting that real-time information on when your house is going to be built, because that it does create. Do you agree? Is that
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that there is still, because that's the human element. The human element, there is human error in there. There is price rises, there is human emotion in there, particularly when we're dealing with people's homes. And hey, that's that is still there, and that will always be there to a certain extent. However, using the technologies, we can try and minimize the cost blowouts and the time blowouts and all those things. And we have to embrace the technology as best we can.
Yeah, well, I guess the technology gets developed as the need for it, comes about, right? It doesn't change without a need for it to be, changed.
That's right.
So you follow the problem, you find the tech, right? So
necessity is the mother of all invention.
That won't change, will it? That's something that's true. So on an emotional note, I want to get down to this fatherhood thing. I want that was some fantastic information, by the way. I really appreciate that. As far as the evolution of fatherhood is concerned and AI, where do you sit on that? What are your thoughts around AI and being a father of, you've got adult children as well. So how do you manage the transition?
Yeah. So certainly and as you said, my children, which they still are my children, they're now adult children. And one's married and the other's with a partner, and so they're off doing their thing, and yet they're still my children. And during the course of time, as you see technologies change, what's really important again is, as parents, and is to be able to embrace the technology and utilize the technology so that technology is giving you more quality time with your children rather than distracted time from your children. So we see so many people, and we've all seen the photos and the memes and the stories of the family sitting around all on their phones or all on their technology. The idea is that we use that technology. So the tools I've just mentioned to you that I have available to me now at work, to be able to use those to shorten the time that I need at work so that I can spend more quality time with my family. And that, I find, is, if we can get the balance right, is really important, because at the end of the day, you can't replace, or I feel that the quality time with my family is irreplaceable. And I think, even to a certain extent, we're talking here about family and with our children, but if I look at it with our friends, it's the same thing. We yearn for that quality time with our family, with our friends, with our siblings, with our loved ones, whoever that is. It's that quality time that we can get, that undistracted time as well. And AI and technology should be able to give us better quality time if we're using it correctly.
Yeah.
Rather than distracted time.
The saying goes, to children, love is spelt time, right? So the more quality time we can give them, the more they're going to feel loved, and more chances they're going to grow into, happy, humble individuals as well, right? So I totally get it, Harry. I think that will be my part in this as well, in this, evolution of fatherhood, is to bring some technology to fathers that actually can find some time to spend more time with their children effectively.
Yeah.
Where they're there, or if they're not there, or if they're just using tech in general to reconnect with the children, which I think is a really good, important, thing. Like, I was thinking, like, I remember that you were telling me the other day about that you were having a conversation. You went to the Ed Sheeran concert, and how Ed makes his music on stage, right?
Yeah. And he's such a great artist. Obviously, we go to one of his concerts, and you see people there, from young children to their parents and their grandparents, all there together enjoying Ed's music. And the reason for that is he is such a talented guy. He's such a genuine guy, and he's such a talented guy. And you see the music. So you got a one-man band up there on stage creating his music, and he's using the technology to create that music, and the talent that he brings out in doing that. It's so powerful. It's a whole other level. Now, you've got to understand, for musicians today, they've also had a point where technology, now we can go on to Spotify and YouTube's and all our other areas of technology here, and listen to their music, in a lot of cases, for free. So what is left for a lot of these musicians, other than endorsements, which is a big part of it for the musicians today, other than the endorsements, is to be doing live concerts, because the sale of their music is actually now relatively cheap compared to their concerts and their endorsements. So they need to be attracting people to their concerts. And how do they do that? They've got to create a better spectacle at the concert. And Ed does that with the way he creates his music. And I was there. Yes, I was enjoying listening to the music, and I was also enjoying, at the same time, watching a master at work creating that music. And to me, we all have our own special skill.
Mm.
And that's a special skill that he has, and he's embraced the technology of being able to do that. And I think it's really powerful. And I also know I shared with you someone else that we both know, who is actually in a band.
Yep.
He's a drummer in a band.
Yep.
And he said the same thing, in that he now is doing live gigs, and he does them because he loves it. And he said that it's the same. He said if they can do an album, that will not be anywhere near as financially successful for them as doing a live concert. And he sees the people there in front of them dancing and singing and enjoying their night, and that's his contribution. And that's what he loves to see, is see people enjoying that music. Even selling an album, yes, it may make you finances, but you don't get the enjoyment of watching someone who's absolutely beaming listening to your music.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago there was my son plays Fortnite. He plays Fortnite sometimes, and there was this guy, a DJ guy called Marshmallow, and he came up with this concept, and he did a virtual concert live. Now you could show up to this concert with your Fortnite avatar, and so he had 11 million people come to his concert on a Marshmallow for a Marshmallow concert. So it was groundbreaking at the time. Like it was a metaverse where he would just like play his music, and he shows up in his own avatar, and then everyone comes to the avatar as an avatar to the concert as well. And then on Fortnite, I don't know if you've played Fortnite before, Harry, but you get all these emotes where you do all these things, and you use their emotes to dance all night. So you're using your own like avatar, your own space from your Fortnite account to go into it. So, and that's his money too. So that's another financial thing, right? Is where they use real money, real Australian or American money, to buy virtual money to spend in that virtual environment. They might even go and buy things as their avatar inside that concert. So it's amazing, isn't it? Like the world, right? And that brings me to one of the questions when I was talking to you earlier, because I know you've got to jump off very soon. There was this question you gave me about like how, because we both have adult children, and I was talking to you about what the idea of having a how can AI help grandparenting? Not that we're making any announcements today, people. It's just
no, there's no announcements. Definitely no announcements. Well, not that I'm aware of. So not unless you have any.
No. Well, the only announcement I have is that there's been conversations around being ready for it. So, I mean, my oldest son's turning 30 this year, so in October. So I'm sort of like, okay, I'm ready. But but the thing is that I wanted, when we had this conversation the other day, I wanted to quickly just do a quick overview of some of these AI tools that have come out recently for grandparents, which is really, really cool, I think. There's one called Caribou, where it's like an app where you can have your grandchild and you log into the same app together, and you can draw and talk, or you're coloring in and playing games and all that sort of stuff. There's another one called Toy Mail Talkies, which is really cool because it's a little fluffy toy, but as a grandparent, you can send your voice messages through that toy to your grandchild. So you can say, good night, darling. It's from a remote location, but the kid feels like grandma's right here or grandfather's right here. Right? So that's pretty cool, right? So, and then there's another one that's more Christmas in July-ish. I know some people in the team like a bit of Christmas in July. So the elf stuff. So you can send yourself as an elf, as an avatar. At any time. So I thought those three would be fun for you as well.
Yep.
What do you think about that, Harry?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that would be great.
I put them in the presentation so they can be downloaded later on. I did have them loaded up with that you could have a look at them online, ready to go. But I know that you're
Perfect.
pressed for time, so I just
Yeah,
want to
all
say
good.
thank you so much, Harry, for coming on. I know I'm a little bit nervous because I just honor you so much, and I get excited whenever you're around me. So I just want to thank you for your time, and thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us.
Man, I it's been my pleasure, and I'm thrilled to be here. And as you know, and as I've said before, you know, you and I have known each other now for 20 odd years, and to see you putting this together and to see the difference that you are looking to make with this here, it's fantastic. And over those 20 years, watching you grow and watching you help others grow, it's been such a pleasure. It's just been, it's mind-boggling, mate. So well done to you for piecing this together, and you know, thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry. I mean, like, I'm just like, if people see the value in what I'm doing, then I'll keep doing it, right? So I've always said that from the, sorry for the croaky voice, I get a little bit emotional. But if while people are still getting value for this, I'll keep doing it, right? So comment in the comments. Let me know in the comments if you're getting any value from our calls. Let us know any questions about AI. Thank you so much, Harry. I will talk to you again soon. I'd love to have you back on at some point, which would be really good. But I know how tight your schedule is. But I'll be keeping out there.
Perfect, mate. I will head off, and I will leave you guys to keep going and enjoy the rest of the call.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Wow. So now you can see what I see with Harry, right? He's one of my favorite people in the world, and he's got such a beautiful nature. He's a humble man. He's very successful. He does what he walks the walk. He talks the talk. And if it doesn't have a win-win in his dealings, he doesn't do it. It's all about win-win for him. So if you've got a mentor that is humble and understanding of himself like that, then you know you can't really go wrong with trying to emulate someone like that. So I really appreciate Harry coming to spend some time with me. All right, so my next guest is Richard. Let me just put this thing up over here. Let me have a look. Now, Richard, I've known Richard for a while now. He came to a conference in Bali with his family. I know that he's been working diligently on trying to find his work-life balance, right? Because I know that he was very busy running his t-shirt company in London. And what he did was he basically could see that he was just, working, burning the candle at both ends, you might say, and he needed to change. So he's come up with some really, really cool concepts around changing his life. Are you there? Awesome, brother. We got there. So, wow, that was a big dropout. Am I getting stuttery like you? Is it? Let me know if it's stuttering, because I'm on my tethering.
You sound pretty good. You sound pretty good to me.
Fantastic. You sound great too, brother.
Okay,
Thank you. Now, where did I get up to? Was it the big introduction for Richard, or was it the say goodbye to Harry? Where did I get up?
Heard, you mentioned my name, and then that was about all I heard.
So you did get the introduction. Okay, so let's jump into it. So let's talk about this professional unlearning and what it means to you. What would you like the viewers to know about?
Well, it's funny because you asked me, like, what's my title these days and what am I doing? I just went, well, what I put on my bio is I'm a professional unlearner at the moment, right? And that really came from the point that my life took a massive 180 180 really in the last few years. So when we met in what feels like a previous life, I'd had an e-commerce company for many years. It'd been very successful, and it was around specializing in t-shirts. And but we'd moved into printing on quite a big scale, and so that was a second business. And I was looking to then create a third business, which was like targeting influencers, and having great success with that, and going through investment rounds and raising quite a lot of money, and really innovating the space and using technology and lots of different things in lots of interesting technology in lots of different ways. And I was hit with like a life-threatening illness, and basically what that meant was that it impacted the business, it impacted the runway for the investment and all these different things. And at that time in the business evolution, I'd kind of created a little bottleneck around myself. So business failed, and all sorts of different things happened on a personal level with our family, me as an individual, the business. And I've been doing this for 25 years, okay? So my whole identity was kind of wrapped up in this idea of who I was and what I was achieving and what direction I was going in. And I'd had kids in the meantime, which obviously had a huge impact in the way I thought about things. And but all those things were in some ways, as far as I was concerned, taken away from me. And just as we were trying to recover and figure out our next way through it, the pandemic happened. And then that triggered a whole load of other stuff that happened to the business and personally. And so we luckily had a property business for a long period of time. So we were able to kind of extricate ourselves from it, sell what was left over it. But essentially, it felt like to me 25 years of my entire life building towards this point where I feel successful or whatever in a certain way, certainly outwardly felt that way. The reality was that none of that, I didn't have any of that. And when you're sort of lying in a bed facing your own mortality, when all these things are super painful, the only thing I could think about was my kids and my wife. And those are the only things that really, really mattered. You know, you can rebuild things, I guess, back to that sort of point. So what we decided to do, even in the UK lockdowns and everything, during the second lockdown in the UK, we went, we're out. We've sold what's left of our businesses. We just want to spend time together. And so that's what we did. We chose the only flight out of the UK. We rented our house. We chose the only flight out of the UK we could get, which was to Mexico. And with the aim that we were going to travel, spend time together as family, forget everything that we'd done before. I call it my life 2.0, and that's the way we kind of like approach it. And the focus was, how can I be the best father and the best husband I can be? And every other decision goes through that kind of lens, basically. So that simplified everything. Zip forward to your question, which is, what does it, where does that term come from? And for me, it was like, everything I thought I knew, I now know it doesn't matter anymore. I'm completely unlearning and relearning everything I've done before, with a view that I know nothing in this world, so I'm open to everything.
Well, that's an inspiring story, mate. I mean, it's almost like a second chance, right? I mean, not everyone, I mean, we all should, but not everyone has, that second chance to learn from the mistakes made previously, or not even mistakes, they were gifts, right? But to look at it, to change the perspective of it, and then look at it from a different perspective and say, yeah, this was that, but this new perspective, I'm a professional unlearner. And it's like, oh my gosh, that gives me a whole world to open up to, right? Like that gives me permission to be more than I ever was. And that was what I found really inspiring about your story, is that you have the ability to tap into that. And I think that kind of character is the one that is very successful, that can change that perspective and find the gift in it for them. So I really, really appreciate that. I was thinking about the whole, when I did some research on the whole professional unlearning thing, it was all around, mental health kind of stuff, where we're helping people to, get their memory back and all that sort of stuff. So, but I think that being a new industry, like, professional unlearning would be, a nice little niche. But yeah, so that's cool. So this thing around the whole conscious. So what's your next steps with this conscious of this professional unlearning? Is that something, the path that you're going to follow, or are you looking at taking a different path and going to learn something and doing something else with your family? Is there something that you want to talk about, or?
Well, I think when you talk about the opportunity about being a professional unlearner, when you bring the conversation around AI, and it feels like, I'm sure you've been aware of the singularity and moving towards this point where technology is in this hockey stick environment at the moment, where it's just exponential. Every year it's exponential.
Yeah.
And there's no certainty in the world before. The last 2 years have taught us there's zero certainty in most aspects of our life if we're reliant on other people, other systems in order to kind of make our way through life. So the idea that really the unlearning everything we previously knew really enables us to take advantage of that environment, really, and really think about ways that we need to kind of upskill ourselves personally and really take ownership of ourselves. So it is linked to mental health, I think, because a lot of people, I guess, struggle to think critically, I think, in these sort of spaces, or I've got a lot of fear around what do I do if I can't trust the system, if I can't trust my job, if I can't trust the people around me, which is getting harder and harder these days. And so I think there's a massive conversation around that. And what am I doing? I think when we started traveling, it was really hard for me being a grinder, because I grinded my way to where I got to, and that stopped working after a while. It created big success in my life, but I think after a while you realize you can't get that without other people's help, right? But that habit that I'd created, that was part of the thing I had to unlearn. And what I had to unlearn was the feeling of every morning, what am I going to do with my day? But allowing myself to think about my kids in that way allowed me to recalibrate that and think about spending time. But what I did during that time was we just enjoyed our time together as a family and everything. And then I was making I'd made a lot of investments, and I was working in that sort of space, and people were asking me, hey, you seem to have quite a cool lifestyle, how have you done it? And so I started just to offer those services and have conversations around basically what, how I'm living my life. And they were just conversations like this to start with, right? But over time I developed a business relationship with someone, and we built a lot of trust around creating communities and online communities and just having free conversations. That's accidentally evolved and span into a business I've now created just this year called Sovereign Soul Network. And that's really about exactly what we're just talking about. It's helping people unlearn everything they thought they knew about finances themselves, and overlaid with a sort of an evolution of kind of stages of consciousness we have to go through, thinking about money, thinking about how we operate in the world, and what the freedom we have. So I was kind of, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm doing it at this moment in time.
Well, it brings me to a question that Harry left for me. Like he sent me a question during the week. He probably got the wires crossed, and he thought that I was going to ask him some questions, but he was going to ask me some questions, right? So he sent me, and I want to tell that for all the viewers as well. While we're giving value, while you're getting value from these calls, we'll keep doing them. But help us give you value. Tell us what you want to know about, and I'll find, and I'll have Richard back to talk about some of these topics that we need to have a conversation about. But what this question that Harry has given me is really close to what you were talking about, this emotional muscle that AI can bring to us, right? So his question was, what impact has AI had on the emotional muscle of the upcoming generations, right? And it was like I didn't really research this one. I sort of like shot off the cuff with it and just see where I was going to go with it. And I remembered this book that I read called What We Owe the Future. Right? I don't know have you heard of that book before? No. It's called What We Owe the Future, and basically the book is about how at every meeting, in every business meeting that we have, we should have somebody from the future sitting at the table to give us their point of view, right? So it's about, what we are the future. We need to bring these people. Now, when I was thinking about it, I was like, maybe AI, maybe a future generation will have this AI that is that person, is that seat at the table that looks for the future, because they can do the math around, the data, crunch the data on what it is in the future that we need, right? So maybe that's the way that we flex that emotional muscle, because if we know that we've got that person at the table, because that's the part that's missing, right? The one that a lot of what we're seeing in the problems of the world today. And I don't know if my internet starts crackling up, just let me know.
Yeah.
If a lot of the problems we have in the world today is major big corporations taking over and doing a lot of stuff, right? And there's no personalized connection to the products that we're using, right? So understanding that, that's the problem. It's not that we don't have connection, because we do. We strive for it. We're human. We want to look into each other's eyes. But there's this part of it that's, Zoom wouldn't be here if we didn't want to look into each other's eyes, right? So we want to be face to face as much as we can. But if AI can fill that problem and be that forward-thinking person for us to sit at the table, then I think it's going to make our kids feel a lot safer, because that's what I think the biggest thing about the kids these days. They think they don't have a future because this climate change and everything else that's going on. There's nobody sitting down. Nobody can sit down now and say, we've got the future sorted, or what we're doing now is doing something for it. So that's why I'm doing this, because I think that it's got longevity in the process in the future, where we can be actively making this happen together and supporting each other through it. There was another thing that came up as well. I don't know if you've seen this TV show. I'm a bit of a sci-fi fan, so I like something that's in the future, because they give you these different ideas about what the future concepts are. And this one called Foundation, it's an Apple produced one, right? Have you heard of it? No. I'm not endorsing the image, but the thoughts, the understanding of social networks. Once you get to once we start traveling the galaxy, because the Webb telescope is something that's, brought the whole history of the universe to us. Now we've got a massive telescope that can do that. So this Foundation TV show is all about. So it becomes a socialist society. So they're predicting that the world's going to become a socialist. The galaxy will be run as a socialist society, because there's an emperor that runs everything, right? But they took it to the point where they know that the emperor's inactive when it's young and the emperor is inactive when it's old. So they have 3 clones for 10,000 years of the same person. So they've got like a young person, a young clone emperor. They've got a middle clone like emperor that runs everything. And then you've got the old clone emperor that is like just the thing. So in the future, like, when we're cloning and we're doing things and bio whatevers, the understanding that maybe there's this, the thoughts about having, now I'm getting my internet connection as being a bit weird, signal. So that's kind of the thing that tells you that there's a future coming that maybe is a little bit out of our grasp yet, right? So how we predict how that's going to happen for our kids, we don't know. All we can do is prepare them for the best, that we can do, and by being an example, right? So the more that we're in touch with the changes of what's going on and what's out there that we can grasp at this point. Because I remember when I was a young boy, they thought rock and roll was going to be the end of the world, right? They thought rock and roll. I mean, all your death metals and all that sort of stuff, they're still alive right now. They're all flourishing, right? Yeah. Ozzy Osbourne's still touring. But it's like,
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so we can't predict it, right? It's just, we just try to do our best to put ourselves in the position of being in the front. And, I was thinking about this with my company as well, as going, how can I want to be able to put myself in the future of where I want to be and work backwards from there, right? And we do that by doing our Smarties goals and our future visions and all that sort of stuff, right? Because when we can project ourselves out there and do it, but we can do it better with AI now, because we can create that sort of stuff. So,
well, interesting. I think the word that kind of was jumping out at me at, the going through the what you were just saying there was the word teacher. And the reason that was coming to me is that the AI basically, and all these kind of things about talking about the having the future person at the table with you. I know there's different ways and strategies, and I think the book was it Think and Grow Rich? Basically, it talks about having an imaginary kind of board members there of the people you would want to advise you, your future self, and through that process, basically, and it helps you kind of re-gauge your brain. So we've got
I think it's Think Again. That's the book. I think Think
Okay.
Again.
Yeah, maybe it could be. Anyway, but so, and that's something we can do ourselves, and maybe AI can would in the future be able to assimilate the trajectory that humans are going on and advise from that point in the future. I think, because I've done lots of deep dives in AI, and I've got mixed feelings about it, but one of the things that it does talk about is that AI is going to reach a level of kind of consciousness that we're not capable of, because it's over the last few months, they've unleashed it to the internet. So coming back to the word teacher, it's kind of it's learning at this exponential rate at the moment, and humans are the teacher. So we've got to be really careful around what AI is learning, basically, in terms of how it then decides what it does in the future, because it's going to be thinking at a completely different level that we can't even comprehend, right?
Yeah.
So it's literally like,
well, hopefully it will raise us up, right? Hopefully we will grow with it, right? That's even if we get
the flip is that the flip side, of course, is that does it, or it decides actually, the world and the universe is going to be better without humans. Who knows, right? It's an interesting conversation to have, for sure. But I think that's the key thing. And when we're talking about kids as well, it's how we teach them to use AI, I think, is such a key thing as well, you know?
Yep. Well, I think moving forward, security systems will be, it's important that we build our AI presence right now, because if we're training our AI to talk, so Chat GPT, that is like, it's like an avatar, your online presence, and the questions you ask it, the data you put into it gives it, and there was this guy at the Mind Valley conference last week, and he was talking about how he just said to the AI, I want you to be my marketing advisor, right? So and then the AI says, I got to do this, I got to do that. And then it starts asking it specific questions. Why was this video so popular? Can you break down so it breaks down all the data of what it is that makes the video popular and how we can make another one that's similar to it so we can engage with his audience more. So, but he's built it so that it actually talks to him the way that he talks to it. So he gives it compliments when he asks for something. He says, please and thank you. He gives it, he's built it to be, polite.
Well, it's amazing, these things. Once you start playing with ChatGPT and doing that thing, asking it questions, you humanize it really quickly. And it's a really weird thing you have to catch yourself doing. And it makes you think also different philosophical questions about what AI is and all the rest of it. But I think what you're saying is there's a way here that it can save time and it can save money on so many different levels. And if we think about being fathers, like you said, we can really save a hell of a lot of time around what we do. But I think you can pull on that string as much as possible because you're interested in it as well. So it's been able to have that awareness, and I think we talked a bit earlier around before the call around using it as a tool and not a crutch. Because if we use it as a crutch, we lose a lot of we can lose a lot of creative thinking. And I think tail end of last year when ChatGPT was properly launched, I spent a lot of time with a lot of people thinking about this sort of stuff. And one of the things that really, really stood out to me was you can choose to be the 1% of people that will take ChatGPT and use it as an opportunity, or you'll be the 99% of the person that all the content this is going to create, you're going to be the consumer. Yeah. Yes. And so we've really got to think about and decide how we apply that really. And it's really stuck with me because with kids, my kids are 10 and 12. And so technology is embedded in their life in a way that it wasn't in mine.
Yeah.
And we have this, the only thing we ever argue about really is screen time.
Yeah.
Every parent's idea around it. And we've got to be mindful of the fact that it is embedded in our life and they do need it and they can learn so much of it. But it's around with using that language, consuming or creating really has helped us in order to sort of just mirror back to the kids just about their own behavior. and talking about, what's the application here? Because
Yep.
if we say, are you consuming information or are you creating something? And it just changes the language that allows you to have a much wider conversation with your kids. It allows them to kind of think about it differently as well. So I think that's really, really cool. I mean, and those kind of watchwords and just key little things you can take out of it that really are reflection points, I think.
There's this tech that I wanted to show you quickly, and it's just this. Let me see where my screen is here. Did I show? I've shared everything. Hang on a sec. Let me just pull this out. Stop screen the share there, and then we'll go to the page. And I wanted to show you this thing called Grammar. Have you seen Grammar before?
Oh, Gamma.
Gamma.
Yeah, my business partner was sharing this with me the other day, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just basically a presentation app. So you just basically come on, you create new, click on it, you write in your topic, and then boom, it just starts giving you relevant. It just creates it that quick, right? But it has some interesting things where it's given you, it says like what the father's roles are being through history. In ancient times, a protector and provider. Medieval times were disciplinarian and moral guide. And industrial revolution, it was financial provider. In the 20th century, it's involved in childcare and education.
Wow.
Now, what I think is what we're going to see, and I'm sure you'd have an opinion on it as well, is that I think that the robots will become, or the AI bots, or the chat bots, whatever it is, they will actually be the teachers moving on. You'll have one-on-one teachers that will be, teaching your kids. What the family will do, like you and your, like the world schooling your children, the family will be the ones that create the intimacy, the understanding, the connection, the humanity. We get back to that. And wouldn't that be kind of going nearly full circle? If we get back to storytelling and campfires and all the stuff that mean to be human, the feel and touch and smell and using our senses, and moving ahead into that realm where the bots, they got to log into their bot, and they even can they can even test their bot to see how they're traveling. Like they're not even testing the kid, they're testing the bot to see how the bot is traveling, because the kid's teaching the kid, because by the reciprocal learning. So it's an incredible thing where maybe the role of parenting will change in a sense where we become the village again. And the technology comes as a teacher.
I'd love to see what it says is the 21st century role of the parent, right? Or the father. I totally agree with that. I love that it's come up with that, and that gives me great hope. I think what I'm massively focused on, because I was so involved in tech for my business, and so I was fully immersed in it, and it didn't jade me, but it kind of like the connection level of how the within business and all it enabled a lot, but it took things away, and a certain thing sat with me. And where I am now is in terms of kind of create communities, and I really want to, I'm moving towards a place where we're creating a physical community and talking about exactly these things. And it's about looking at ancestral behaviors around community, around what are we teaching kids, and how and who are they learning from? Because I think from a information perspective, bots can certainly do that. I think there isn't an information problem in the world. There's more information than ever has been before. It's an application problem. And that's what really need to be able to teach kids. So not only in education in terms of how are kids applying any information that they receive and what they're learning in tangible, practical and helpful ways, but also from the community side. How do we get closer to community? How do we rebuild bonds? And how do they have mentors that aren't just parents, but are older figures, elders? There was a massive place for elders in previous communities, and there are in indigenous communities still. Uncles that aren't attached in the same way, that have got a completely different viewpoint on the world and how to bring up kids and education and their personal experience. There's so much space for different kind of rolling learning models that will really round out kids' behavior. So they just think completely differently in a way that we do, basically, because they've got potentially the best of both worlds. But I'm passionate and driven to find a space between using technology as a tool but looking at this ancestral living from a health perspective, but from a community perspective as well.
I did a video on last week about this intergenerational trauma, and me growing up with a grandfather that had been through World War, right, and he would jump in the cupboard every now and again, and but it gave me empathy. Even I think that whatever life gives us, it's sort of like we need to find that gift in it, and I think that we as parents need to be that like example for our kids, right? If we're learning that way, then they're going to just automatically go that way for their own learning as well. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not trying to we're not trying to make something new. It's all about learning, and that's what we all agree on. But it's the way that the modality, the way it's delivered, and we know that the system in itself is outdated, and that it needs to evolve just as much as our society does to enhance it, right? So yeah,
I think Harry touched on it earlier, talking about time, and another term that always stuck in my mind was no one is going to remember the extra hours you put in at work apart from your kid, right? your
right.
child, right? And time is literally the most precious commodity we have.
Yeah,
especially particularly when we measure it in as it relates to our children, right? And so the idea of kind of it's hard in this world because there are so many pressures with cost of living, job insecurity, and all these different things that time becomes really hard for parents in this time and place, and in the world we find. And so there can be the delegation of time to technology with kids because the parents haven't got it, and it's a replacement, and there is no quick answer to that other than to kind of really rethink how we as parents are the decisions we're making short term are really affecting us and our relationship with kids longer term. But I get it, it's hard. I get that it's hard, and my hope is that AI certainly enhances some of this. Some of this time.
Yeah, I think the value system is all out of whack, right? So I think that once we start valuing things differently, then we'll find a sustainable way.
Yeah.
Right. If we can value things differently than what we currently are, we definitely can. But whether there's a need or a want, or the obstacles to get there are huge. But I think once we, as a collection or a critical mass, want that change, it will happen, right? So once we get to that point, we can. But I mean, if we're all doing their own little bit to create special spaces and special times for your kids and stuff, then we're doing our part, Yeah. And that leads me to my father-son retreat. Bam. And thank you so much, Richard, for for coming on, and I love to have you on again sometime. We have some great topics coming up in the future. I'll just keep giving you little messages here and there and saying this is what our topic is and what interests you have in it, and I'd love to have you a part of all that we're doing here, because I know that you're an awesome father, and with a vision like yours, I think we need more people like you to do the work, right? So that we can create it for a safer place for others to do the work as well. So thank you so much, my friend.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Love being part of it, and really appreciate the space you're making here to have these conversations. So props to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Okay. I'm going to jump back into my presentation here. What an awesome bunch of guys. You guys, I'm so fortunate. And I mean, I think, there is people out there that we know, right, that are like, that are just doing, they're superheroes. They really are. And they're coming from a place of wisdom, and they're coming from a place of, experience and having, the desire to change something, right? Using your resources to invest ethically, using your resources to do the right thing, and help people help others, lift other people up, see the greatness in someone, feed that back to them, raise them up, and that's leadership, right? So I just really love that I've got this place. And if there's people getting some value in this, please make a comment down below. We will review those comments later on and get back to you on those questions and answer them. Maybe they might see them coming up on another episode of the Evolution of Fatherhood. Okay, so I wanted to show you, we're talking about time, right? How time is a very important thing to have with your children. And I've created this this retreat that's happening on the 3rd to the 10th of September. And we basically have 2.5-day workshop all on AI. It's all about, knowing your why with AI. There's the how to train your dragon, which is all about training your AI to be you. The input that you put into it is the avatar that you'll create. We have like an emotional fitness contract. We've got Laura LaRocca coming in and talking about what the AI wants with feminine. What does the feminine and AI want? So it's not just about, just men stuff. It's all about what women want as well, because part of us being, well-rounded humans, men, we're not anti-women. We're actually really pro-women. We just want to be the superheroes that we can be for, not only for ourselves, but for our family. And that's an important thing for me. So, we've got Stefan coming in, which is he's the he's going to talk about the AI and the culinary experience. So basically, and then we're going to tack on the end of that is and you can do that with your sons. Basically it's open to uncles, guys, anybody that wants to come on the trek to Lombok, they can come. But we as a group, as part of the workshop group, we'll go to Lombok together. We'll put some intentions on down the bottom. We will go to Lombok. We'll get picked up by the guides. The guides will have all the Sherpas with the tents and the camping gear and all that sort of stuff. So we climb up to the base camp. You can go to the summit if you want to go to the summit, but we're going to the base camp. Then we're going to go down into the crater and camp a night in the crater. So we camp on base camp, we camp in the crater, and then we trek out of the crater in the morning down to our waiting boat that takes us over to the Gili Islands. And we're going to sit on the Gili Islands and get some massages and have some nice food and just finish off our retreat from there. So if you're interested in that, this is what the retreat looks like on a spreadsheet. If you want the information, just comment in the detail in the comment section below. Basically, thank you all for joining. It's been my pleasure. I'm sorry about the dropout in the middle. It's Bali, right? It's it hasn't dropped out for months, and then it decides to do it right at the crucial time when I'm bringing Richard on. So thank you all for joining me. As I said before, we are doing this while we're giving value. If there's no value being delivered here, then we'll stop doing it. So until then, let me know what your thoughts are, what your questions are around AI. And if you would like to submit your questions, or even if you want to be a guest on the show, let me know, and we will go from there. So from me, I will say good evening, and I will see you on the flip side on next week. Bye.